Okay, we are live. Aloha. All right, I'm going to just hang on 1 second now. I'm going to see if I can do this. Doggone it. All right, well, it didn't work. Never mind. And we tried it again. I know I tried the whole Instagram thing again, but I guess it's not going to work. Welcome to the Caring Caregiver Show. I'm your host, Savvy, the founder of Give Me a Break, a nonprofit organization that's caring for caregivers. We're here to bring back the joy of caregiving, and each week we help caregivers to survive. Why do I say that? Because 50% of all caregivers will not survive the one they are caring for. In other words, 50% of caregivers will pass before the one they're caring for. That is such a bad statistic. You're at risk. And even higher if you're 70 and older, because if you're 70 and older, 70% of you will pass before the one you're caring for. Yeah, they talk about when one passes, it's so sweet. They miss each other so much. One passes and the other passes right after. Well, here's a shockingly scary statistic. Hang on 1 second while I clear my throat. All right, let me just get a little of that on my face. So here's the scary statistic of that is that of that 70% that pass before, the first one to go is not the one who is being cared for. The first to go is the caregiver, the 70-year-old plus caregiver. And the reason why the one passes shortly after is because, excuse me, I may pass before the show. All right. I just swallowed. I think I swallowed a bug. Isn't that fun? Protein. Anyway, while I'm getting this statistic out, it chokes me up. So the other one passes because there's no one to care for them. That's horrible. We lose two, right? And so caregiving journey is all about survival. And we want you to survive. And we want to change that statistic. So check out our website. My goodness gracious. It's going to be one of those days. I was actually fine, like literally 10 seconds ago. So go to our website, gab808.org, or text us at 808 754 3787. And you can always do, snail mail is now email. So just email us at info@gab808.org. Okay, I'm going to get this together. The show must go on. For more information and support, just check us out. Go there, check out our website. You can even click on and do a caregiver support form, and that support form will go right to our admin volunteers. We're all volunteers, right? We're all caregivers, and so they'll get in touch with you and they'll help you connect to whatever it is you need, resources or just support, or come to our support sessions. Our support sessions are pretty amazing. They are actually, oh, I don't like that one. I like this one. There we go. And they're actually free and online. So super convenient, totally affordable, and there for you. We're just a community of caregivers just like you. Tuesdays at 2:00 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. And that's 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time for those of you in Houston, in our Houston chapter, and 8 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time in the evening. So you can, if you're here in Hawaii, you've got two to choose from, 2 and 8, every Tuesday evening. Join a community of caregivers. If you're on the continental US, do the time changes, and you're welcome to join us anytime. It's completely open to the public. You don't have to register for it. You don't have to do anything. We're not psychologists. We're not trying to get into your head. We're just a community of caregivers sharing tips with one another. And I always try to put some education in there as well. In fact, last night, we were talking about taking one day at a time and how important that is. And I put out a little activity. So those of you, if you're watching from the session last night, I hope you're working your activity and doing that, because we have something to do each day of the week, and then we're going to report back on it the next week. Just ways to practice your self-care and wellness, and to give yourself gratitude. Okay, so every caregiver, you need these sessions, and it's your safe space. Like I said, get connected, just join a community. We are here for you. All righty. And what else? The Caring Caregiver Show. Oh, I have to do this part. This is really important because we're sponsored by Givers Guides Magazine. Now, Givers Guides Magazine is a magazine. It's online and it's written for caregivers by caregivers from a caregiver's point of view, which is different from anybody else. It's one of the few out there. And you can get your subscription. This is the July issue that's just hit the stands as of July 1st, a couple days ago. And we've got articles in there for caregivers. We're also featuring our Shine a Light for Caregivers walk and what that's really all about. I'll definitely be talking more about that later, but you can get your subscription. Just go to giversguides.com. And remember, all profits, once we pay for everything else, all the profits go to Give Me a Break. So it goes to continue helping caregivers. All right. Whew, we are in episode 5 of season 12. I am truly honored to be doing this. I will continue to bring resources to caregivers for as long as I have breath and can speak without choking on a bug. And so it's really all about caregivers, and all of the resources and guests that I bring on the show. 99.9% are caregivers just like you. They get it. They get what you're going through. So you don't want to miss a single show. And thanks for being here today. So you know that I talk about caregiver guilt all the time. And even those of you who come to our sessions for years know I do a series called Letting Go of Caregiver Guilt. And yet people still seem shocked that there's such a thing as caregiver guilt. And they're not sure what it is. It's amazing to me. Well, my first guest can tell you all about it. She's actually a certified coach and author of No Regrets, Resources for Regret-Free Caregiving. She's also the newest writer in our Givers Guides magazine. So please help me welcome Raina Nices. Nices. She's the nicest. That's how I'm remembering it. But so please welcome. Aloha, Raina. Thank you for being here on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited. So tell us your caregiving story. I know there's a long, lengthy one, so you can give us the Reader's Digest version.
It is. I will shrink it down.
And we'll have to read the rest. Yes.
There you go. Yeah. So sadly, I have the story no one wants to have. I've actually lost both of my parents to Alzheimer's disease. So I was 16 years old when my mom was diagnosed. She was just 53 years old. She lived 12 years at home with my dad as her primary caregiver. And then 7 years after her passing, my dad was diagnosed, and he lived 14 years with the disease. And so it's been a long journey and had lots of different roles in that. Honestly, I think we oftentimes only think of the caregiver that's right there full time with the person. Yeah. And I wasn't that with my mom. My dad was wonderful and just said to me, Raina, go off and live your life. I've got it. I've got your mom. And so I was able to go and come as I needed to as a young, 20-year-old and that kind of thing. Then once my dad reached a point where he needed 24/7 care, his sister had been living with him, and she just reached a point where it was just too much for her. He developed melanoma and had surgery, ended up with MRSA. It was just ugly, sad. The regression from all of that was just significant. So my sister and I tried to get together and decide, okay, what do we do now? She was really leaning towards a memory care facility. I really felt like he needed to be at home. And that was because though he was in his late 70s, he was still playing volleyball 3 times a week and going to the gym 3 times a week. Wow. He wasn't driving. We had caregivers taking care of that, but he was that physically active. And so my husband and I got together and talked about it. And he's like, hey, if you need to go to Kansas City and live with your dad, you need to go to Kansas City and live with your dad. And so I lived on a farm 220 miles from my dad's home and drove up every week, Thursday through Sunday, for 2.5 years. And then every other week after that, the last 2 years of his life. And so we were successfully able to put a team together to really support him in his home and bring help to him. So lots of stories, obviously, with that.
Yes. And I love that word team. And that's another thing that we'll talk about later. But, that's part of your book as well. And the article that you've written for this July issue of the Giver's Guides is actually about your caregiving team. And so you guys can read all about that with your subscription. But I want to talk about your book because I got your book in the mail. Thank you. And I'm blown away because I am telling everyone and literally I am, and even now through the show, that it is the absolute caregiving guide. Every caregiver needs your book because they need this guide to caregiving. And there are so many wonderful parts of the book. And I just threw it up there on the screen, but there's so many wonderful parts of the book. Let's see if that's not the one. That's not the one. This is the one. Oh, well, never mind. I know I need a tech person. I can't even tell you. But one of the big parts, and no regrets, hope for your caregiving season. You guys take a screenshot of this because it's an amazing, amazing book that she's written. But I love all of it. But before you go into it, I just wanted to comment that throughout the book, there are these little kind of notes or letters, if you will, just throughout the book that say, "Dear caregiver," or "Dear discouraged daughter," "Dear exhausted caregiver." And there are these little wonderful notes that you put throughout the book that just are amazing because I feel like I'm being seen.
I think that's one of the most challenging parts with caregiving is just really feeling like no one's noticing me. Nobody's paying any attention to what I'm doing every day and how hard this is.
Yeah.
And so after my dad passed away, I started looking at, people were saying to me, "Raina, you did this differently and you did this well." I think one of the big things for me is it was important to me to figure out how to have a life and care for my dad. And that's not easy,
No.
but it is possible. And so for me, again, I had half of my life at the farm with my high school age son and kids who were getting married and grandbabies that were being born at the same time as 220 miles away caring for my dad. And so that juggle is not easy and it definitely takes intentionality. And so as I was looking at the book, I'm like, what did I do differently? Why do people keep saying this to me? And so, I really wanted to include those things that I felt. And that was that nobody could really understand. Nobody could really see what it was taking to do what I was doing. And I have a sister and she did it her own way. And she definitely had her own journey, but it just being seen and really having somebody understand that you just need some encouragement sometimes.
Yeah.
You need somebody to know you did it, what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's one here. It says, why am I not reading this? "Dear resistant daughter or son, life is full of change. You can embrace change for the benefit of you and your patient." And it goes on. But just that one moment, here I am looking at this wonderful book and seeing all of these amazing things that are in the book. And then all of a sudden I get a little note that says, "I see you." I love that. I love that. I mean, there's so much I love about it, but I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. 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 And then in the very end too, there's one of my favorite parts, which is a section where you can write in stuff I'm letting go of.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I actually took a little screenshot of it and told all of the caregivers in our group. I said, I want you guys to list this and we'll talk about it next week.
It's a simple exercise and one we don't really think about doing, but we try to just keep piling it all on top. And caregiving is too much. And it only, especially when you're caring for an aging parent, it only increases as they age. And so the more we try to just squeeze more room in there, the more burnout we get and the more struggles we have. And if we learn to just say, okay, I'm letting this go just for this season, just for right now, I'll come back to it. It'll still be here. And we don't want to let go of relationships and people that are important, but they have to change. We have to say to our friends, hey, I'm not as available as I was, but you're important and I want to do lunch. Let's do it 2 weeks from now, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And you don't lose those relationships because it's so important. And then I also love that there was a thing that where a page where you could list things that I love to do. And that's something that I'm always, you know, reminding caregivers that this is just part of your journey right now. You're just in a pause. That doesn't mean that you should let go of things you love and
Yes.
forget about the things that you really enjoy doing. And so listing that just
Yep.
makes that puts it right there, you know, and
And
that
some of
you
the things,
thought to
sorry.
put that in the book? Yes. No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Some of the things that I found when I was feeling really stressed, or I found that I was just not being necessarily as kind as I should be at times with snapping at people, that kind of thing, is I started to step back and go, what's going on? What am I missing? And one of the things I realized I was missing was creativity. Before I was taking care of my dad, I was sewing, I made hats, I was selling them at a local store. I was just using my creativity. And once I was taking care of him, that space, that time was taken care of. It was too full. I couldn't do that,
Yeah.
but I could pick up the crochet hooks that I hadn't picked up in 20 years and crochet things. So I started looking at, what do I love to do and how can I find a way to make that work? I took an art class online while my dad was sleeping.
I love
There are
that.
things that we can do.
Yes, I love that. And I love that it puts it to the fore and puts it right in front of you. So,
Yeah.
just I mean, and there's so much. I could probably talk about so many other things, but I've sort of monopolized our conversation, but please share with us anything else that you'd like to share with our audience or that you think is poignant about that.
So I think one of the things that in the book, I hit 10 things of medication management, change, letting go, grieving, a lot of those hard, heavier things. The last 6 things are self-care tools. How did I do this? Why did it look different for me than it has for other people? So I literally share with you the tools. Some of the things that I did was really look at my values and say, what's most important to me? And how do I live to those important values? And how do I be okay with letting go or saying no to things that I would have said yes to before? And so I love that the tools are there and we just have to take the time to do that. So that leads to one of my passions, and that is I'm a coach, and I love to be able to come alongside caregivers and say those things with you, have you explore those things, have those conversations. Coaching is really just a space to hear your own heart. And for me as your coach to just say, what's going on? So how does that make you feel? What are you thinking about that? Or if you're struggling with something, well, what's worked in the past? Just helping you ask questions you don't know to ask in the moment because of the emotions you're writing and all of that. So I love to come alongside and support in that individual way so you can really get your space to be able to do that. I also have a podcast, so a Season of Caring podcast. I interview caregivers, so I'm looking for guests all the time. It is faith-based because I found that for my journey, that true hope came from knowing that God loved me, even in the middle of the trenches of my mom and dad not remembering who I am, of finding myself, orphaned at a young age, honestly, and just being able to really process through that with my faith. And so that's been a big piece of what I do and how I share with people. I hadn't even had a chance to mention this with you. I just finished a book called Hope for Your Caring Heart Journal. And it's actually faith and prayers and some scripture and prayer, and then some reflection questions and gratitude, because gratitude is another one of those tools that we really have to use. So, and that's only available through my website at aseasonofcaring.com.
Right. And it's on right on the screen there, which is aseasonofcaring.com. So make sure you guys get that A in there before, because I was typing in Season of Caring. So aseasonofcaring.com for that information. And, not only is the book, No Regrets, a great comprehensive guide for caregiving, now you have spiritual wellness through this new book that you have, which is Hope for a Caring Heart. And what a wonderful, wonderful accent or just combination to the tool. And of course, bottom line, you need a coach. And believe it or not, yes, we need coaches in life, but especially through caregiving. A certified coach, Raina, can help you get through all of that and get any help that you need, any support that you need as well. So go to the website, aseasonofcaring.com, and check it out. Thank you so much, Raina. Thank you for being on today and for sharing your heart and your story with us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you
And
so
oh,
much.
by the way, folks, you've heard those little sounds. No, neither one of us is passing gas. Please introduce your co-guest there.
This is my Roxy girl. She is a pug, so she's black, so it's hard to see her, but she has a very flat nose. There you go. You can see the profile. Very flat nose. I apologize. She's really snory today. So thank you for
That's
letting her say hi
okay.
and
No,
for letting us hang out.
Just so everyone knows, it's snoring. Okay.
It is. Sorry.
But thank you. No, and I wanted her to have a little bit of a spotlight there because we are still caregiving. Caregiving is people, pets, and plants, as I always say.
Yeah.
And so you've got your little girl there. So thank you so much. And thanks for coming on today and sharing with us.
Thank you.
Aloha. All righty. Wow. Mahalo so much, Raina, for all the sharing and caring that you do for caregivers. And again, that's aseasonofcaring.com for all of you. What you don't know, right? It's so important for caregivers to always be in the know. And we are so in the dark and you're isolating and you need that help. So reach out. And of course, we need to light up our days. And so guess what's coming up here, folks? And let me just pop this up there. So here's what's coming up in 18 days now. In just 18 days, have you guys registered? Have you signed up? The Shine a Light charity walk is coming up. We're doing this on the 20th of July. Like I said, only 18 days away. And it's going to be at Magic Island, Ala Moana Beach Park, right there at Magic Island, the most beautiful sunset, literally on the island. And so you're going to go out on this little island. You'll be able to walk around. There's going to be little tents with resources that are playing games. You'll win prizes, get gifts. It's a wonderful way to spend the evening. It's from 5 to 7. It's just a couple of hours. Put your carry in a wheelchair. Come on down. Everyone should come and do it. So get online, register, go to gab808.org now. The first 100 to register will receive a backpack and a glow stick. Because once that sun goes down, we're going to shine a light for caregivers. That's the whole point of this. Caregivers are in darkness and isolation, and we're here to light up the night. So join us at Magic Island. And if you can't be there in person, oh, wait, one more thing here. We are encouraging companies, groups, troops, church groups, everybody make a team. And 3 or more makes a team, and dress up, get a little crazy. Why not? We need some social wellness. So dress up. The best dressed team is going to win a pamper session for up to 20 people. And that includes massage, aromatherapy, meditation. So gosh, all the more reason to do that. And so if you're a team, do that. And if you can't be there virtually, if you can't be there in person, that's okay. You can help us fundraise virtually, and you can do it in place. Just check out our website, go to the site for our walk, and just navigate through all of the ways to help us raise funds, but also ways that you can participate and shine a light for caregivers. Okay. So speaking of darkness and negative spaces, our next guest, in addition to being a caregiver for her husband, she's also a caregiver advocate and the creator of The Negative Space, where she shines light on the realities of caregiving and provides services to caregivers and education tools to those who support caregivers as well. Please welcome Allison Breininger. I did that correctly this time, didn't I?
Close enough.
Breininger, right?
Breininger.
Yeah.
Breininger.
Breininger.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So close. I know. That's okay. Not everybody gets my last name right either, or my first
Right.
name for that matter.
Yeah.
So, hi, aloha, Allison. Thank you so much for
Hi.
being on. Yeah. So, tell us your caregiving story.
Absolutely. And I love the segue that you were just talking about the darkness, because it's true that
Yes,
is something that we
it's
do,
so
is
true.
shine the light on caregiving. So
Yeah.
happy to be here. My caregiving story is that my husband, Sean, is now 45, and he was diagnosed about 14 years ago with a rare genetic disease called Fanconi anemia. That disease causes bone marrow failure. There he is. Bone marrow failure, and then cancer at a rate of around 700 times that of the rest of us. So in 2011, shortly after his diagnosis, he had a bone marrow transplant, which, I mean, that in itself is enough for any family to go through. But at this point, that feels like, oh yeah, we did that. because so many things have happened since then. He had tongue cancer and had part of his tongue removed. He had bladder cancer and had his bladder removed. He's had throat cancer twice. Last fall, he had esophageal cancer. He's had gum cancer a number of times. He's had about 150 skin cancers. And then all of the things that go along with that, right? He, was on steroids for the bone marrow transplant. So then he had to have his hip replaced and had to have cataract surgery. And, his kidneys are in really bad shape just because of all the treatments he's had. And so we just, I had no medical background. I was thrust into this in my early 30s. We had just adopted a toddler from Haiti. And then all of a sudden my life became all about caregiving. And has not stopped since then.
I always say we go from calm to chaos in a moment, right?
Yeah. And then we just kind of stay there, just kind of stay in the chaos. Yeah. So it's been a pretty intense 13, 14 years since that diagnosis. And at one point, what I realized was that there were all these resources out there for him and that there was very little for me.
Yes.
And that he was getting support and services, and that I was there for, like 99% of every hospital
going into the negative space.
Exactly. And so he and I ended up starting a nonprofit called The Negative Space. And that's based on the artistic concept of everything that's in the background of a picture. So the parts of the picture that you don't really notice or pay attention to or see or give any respect to, but if they were gone, the whole picture would change.
Right.
And that is so true about us caregivers, right? Like we are a huge part of the picture. And yet very often nobody notices that we're
not even visible.
Right.
Yes.
But like those really haunting statistics you gave at the beginning about when the caregiver goes away,
I know.
What happens to the person? And so you think about that, like, what if we went away from the picture? What would happen? Right. And so
that's why it changes the picture completely. Right. Or erases it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
It's like that kind of reminds me of, and I'm kind of a Back to the Future sort of fan. I don't know 1, 2, and 3, but every time they had that photo until they corrected the past, they started to disappear.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like that's what would happen. Like if a caregiver was no longer in that picture, the whole situation would just change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything that we work so hard for, everything that we put our heart into, all the energy and the love we put in to save these people in our lives, the loved ones that we have, would just completely disappear.
Right. Well, and then if you think about us, and I love that Reno talked about this as well, that we caregivers are often unseen. So actually our mission of The Negative Space is to change the way caregivers are seen and supported, because we're just not. And so I think about, like, if people think of the picture, they think of Sean in the hospital, they think of Sean getting all these things, but they don't even see that I'm there in the picture, right? They don't pay attention to that.
And I'm going to pop this up real quick.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that when I put this up, and you even said it, there he is. Everybody looked at him.
Yep.
And didn't necessarily see that you were there, because you're the one that was doing everything else, right? And the caregiver doesn't always get seen. You know?
Most often does not.
It's crazy, right? So
yes,
and creating that awareness is really why I'm putting this community of all of us together, because the louder our voice, the more people see us, right? We are the little Who's from Whoville, living on that little, on that little dandelion, and we're saying, we are here, we are here, we are here.
Yes, that's exactly what we are. Exactly.
Right. But I love your website. I think it's a vital website for people to go to, for any caregiver to go to, but just even those of you who know caregivers, because one of the things I love is that little tab on your website, which is caregiver gifts.
Yeah.
And I love that, because there are gifts that you can get for a caregiver, and you can have it sent to them. And what a wonderful thing. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it started back in the day when I just sort of started putting cozy items together and sending them to people. And then people loved it so much that we have since turned this into a thing. And so the boxes are themed. All of them are called I'm Part of the Story. So on the outside of the box, so I always picture caregivers opening their front door and looking down, and then the top of the box is staring back at them and says, I'm part of the story. Because they don't realize that themselves, and very few people are saying that to them. So all the items inside have that theme. There's a beautiful mug that people love. There are socks, there's tea,
Socks.
there's
I love
aromatherapy,
it.
there's all this stuff. And everything on there is all about being that I'm part of the story. And
Yeah.
so we have the boxes in 2 different sizes. And it's just been really beautiful to see how these boxes have sort of spread. And so you're right that sometimes as a supporter, and that's part of our mission, is how can we help people help caregivers, right? And so sometimes people are like, my friend is a caregiver, but I don't know what to say and I don't know what to do. And so it's a way that you can, I'm like, I've done the work. I've put the words in there that they need to hear.
Show the love.
You
and
just order it.
order it. And it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And caregivers, you can also order one for yourself.
Yep.
We are a nonprofit, and so we aim to have everything that we do be at little to no cost to caregivers. So there's a little button there that says, if you want to buy this for a caregiver or for yourself and the cost is prohibitive, just click this button and we'll send you one, because we don't ever want money to get in the way of caregiver support.
I love that. And I love that about, and I think that's the true heart of a caregiver, which is why I love like I said, 99.9% of all of our guests, all of our resources are caregivers too. So we get it.
Yes.
We know what it's like.
For
We
sure.
know what it's like to lose our job. We know what it's like to have medical bills, and just stacking up on the desk.
Yes.
We know what it's like to be spread in 8 million different directions, trying to keep it all together. We do.
We do.
And so we get it. And so welcome to your community, caregivers, because guess what? You're a bunch of people that love you.
Exactly.
And I love that. You also do a podcast called In Sickness.
I do. Yeah. So I
Talk
do that
about
with my co-host, Justin, is a male caregiver who's caring for his wife, because I think that male caregivers are even more in the negative space, right? People don't really acknowledge that there are men out there caregiving. And I think that's even more unseen. And so I really appreciate his perspective. But it's not just for spousal caregivers. We try to keep it as generic as possible for people who are caregiving for any type of person and any type of disease. And so we just recorded our, I think, 90th episode.
Awesome.
And it just has been a beautiful thing that he and I do together. We release it every other week. It's available anywhere you would get your podcasts. And then a very cool thing that is one of my favorite things that I do that we just started about a year ago, maybe, is that we have support groups that are attached to the podcast episode. And so instead of just a generic, sort of like who wants to talk about what tonight kind of thing, like the last episode that came out was about sort of the catch-22 of caregiver fatigue, meaning we're tired because we're caregivers, but we can't take a break because we're caregivers. And then we just go round and round and round, right? And so then about a week after the podcast is released, I offer a virtual support group for free. And then people know that that's the topic. So most people listen to it beforehand. It can come. Some people even come with notes and they're like, I really wanted to talk about this part, kind of thing. But even if they haven't, they kind of know what they're getting into. And so sometimes if it's like a heavier topic, people can like say, maybe I don't want to come to this one, or I really do want to. And so that's another thing that we offer at the Negative Space, are those virtual free support groups. And again, those are open to all types of caregivers.
Yeah, I love that. And now you're at what time zone are you in?
I'm in the Central Time Zone.
So Central Time Zone.
Yep.
Yep. So Central Time Zone, you guys, here's another session for you to be able to go to, another support group that you can get support from, right?
Yes.
In fact, I keep a list of all the support groups just here on Oahu, right? Because, the bottom line is not that if you can't come to a Give Me a Break support group, so what? Find one that you can go to that is in your area, that is at a time you can do it, but don't not go.
Yeah.
Get community, get supported. You'll be amazed how much love and support there is out there from caregivers just like you.
It's true. And I think it's just good to, sometimes people go to all different types of support groups. And we all need as much support as we can get.
Yes.
So you don't have to pick and choose. You can use them all. Yeah.
Yeah, because then there's support for caregivers, but there's also support for caregivers of cancer patients. There's support for caregivers of those who are taking care of somebody with any sort of dementia disease, right? Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and so there are all kinds of groups. You don't have to just go to one, but get the support. Don't isolate. Don't be alone. You're not alone.
Exactly. Yep, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, anything else you want to share with our audience today?
Yeah, just like Raina, I also do coaching, and I do it a little bit differently. I also have a coaching background. I spent 20 years in the education space before I left that to do this nonprofit. But for mine, it's we do some strategy or some support or some sort of goal setting if that's what people are looking for. But really, it's more that I have most of the people that I coach, they are people who had a therapist or maybe still have a therapist, but that person doesn't get it, right? And they are just looking for someone to talk to kind of spill their guts to, who's going to say, yep, I get it, right? And that they are just tired of having friends or family or therapists who are like, oh, what? That's your life, right? And so, so I also offer one-on-one support, which as I said, it's mostly that, but it can also be, strategy and goal setting and all of that as well. And those, I have a sliding scale because we're a nonprofit. And so have a sliding scale down to $0 so that, again, that can be available to anyone who is interested to do those online sessions. Yeah.
That's awesome. And, that's one of the things that we talk about in our sessions too is, I do a caregiver survival series. And one of them is these are all the tools you need as a caregiver. And one is a safe person. And having a safe person. And so you can be somebody's safe person. You, Raina, me, we're safe people. We're here. You can contact any one of us or all of us, and we will be your safe person anytime. So that's a wonderful thing to know and a wonderful thing that you give of yourself. So thank you for that.
For sure. And then I'm also on social media on Facebook and Instagram. And so there I share sort of the ins and outs of my caregiving life, which then people are able to be like, I just had something like that too. And it's so good to hear you talking about it, as well as, education and tips for people who.
And can they connect to your social media on your website as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. Yep. So if you go to thenegativespace.life, thenegativespace.life, then you can connect to social media. You can do all of that. So
you can sign up to get alerts for every time the podcast or every time the support group is scheduled. You can do all the things there on the website.
Oh, that's perfect. So that actually makes it really convenient because I'm always constantly telling our caregiver group community to set an alarm on your phone, So I love that. You can preset that. And then, if all else fails and you forgot all of this information, just go to your phone right now, dial 612-770-5879 and just talk to Allison right now. And give her a second to get off this is live, folks. But thank you so much for all you do and for everything you do for caregivers and for all that you are as a caregiver and that you're sharing and paying that forward makes you stronger and helps you to survive. And know that if you ever need someone as well, I'm here for you.
Appreciate that. So great to be here.
Person too. So I know Raina would be as well. She's just a wonderful heart. So thank you for being on and for sharing with us today.
Thank you.
Aloha. Oh, there's the button. Oh, there the button won't go. There it is. There, I got it. Okay, look at me. I'm just doing it today, you guys. Aren't I impressive? All right. Look, I really do need an IT person. Hello. If you want to volunteer, help me out. Please just come get in touch with me. Go to gab808.org. Send a little note and say, I'll help you, Savvy, because I'm doing my best. But thank you so much. Make sure you check out Allison's podcast as well, In Sickness, and go to her website, thenegativespace.life. And thank you so much for shining light for caregivers and for all that you do and helping us to see that we may exist in that negative space, but we don't have to fill it with negative. We can fill it with lots and lots of positive. So see, caregivers, I told you, it's all about you. That's what we're doing. I really want to thank our guests today and remind you that this show is brought to you by Give Me a Break and the Giver's Guides online magazine. So get that subscription right now. Keep it all coming. Help us out because all those profits go to Give Me a Break. The Caring Caregiver Show, is really all about connecting with community, with resources, and your wellness and survival is the goal. But not just to survive, but to thrive even beyond that. Now, next week, I will have Kathy Tan and Jenna Pasquale of Amalu Coaching on. And also, Jenna is actually a laughter therapy coach. So this is going to be really fun. I'm excited about next week. So if you want a good laugh and you want to learn all about more coaching, and we have two wonderful coaches on today that you can contact as well, please just keep coming and checking out this show. So set a reminder. There's that reminder thing again. And on your phones right now to tune in every Wednesday at noon live on the Caring Caregiver Show. And if you miss us live, don't worry. I know a lot of you do. You can just check us out on the caringcaregivershow.com, and you can check episodes, listen to the audio, watch the video right there. Or gosh, go to any of our social media. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to LinkedIn. We're streaming live on 7 platforms right now. So whatever platform you're on, go and watch any of the past videos. And also you'll be able to watch us on Alelo TV Hawaii 53 in about another month or so. This episode will come on, but you're watching past episodes now. So enjoy that. Those rebroadcasts are always going to be something you want to watch, because the resources you want to know. What you don't know, like I said earlier, and what you do know can help you survive. Whatever you do, just stay connected. We've got lots of amazing community events and presentations coming up that you don't want to miss. Don't miss our walk, you guys. Sign up for it. Go to gab808.org and check all that information out. It's all about having fun, and it's all about finding you again. And you need that. Don't ever lose who you are, and always protect your heart. So we're here as a community to help you with that. In the meantime, remember, breathe. Just take a breath. Watch this one guy on TikTok who comes in. He says, drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth and breathe. Because when we're stressed, it's just like, it's up there. So drop your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Take a deep breath. Breathe. Here's hoping that you're finding more joy in caregiving every week right here on the Caring Caregiver Show. Thanks for tuning in. And please be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Have gratitude for you. And if you know somebody who's caring, share it with them. Aloha. Thanks for tuning in.